Hello everyone. Few people asked me about how I set up fuel offset and CO setting on Aprilia SXV or RXV motorcycles, and to be honest, it is not that complicated as it could be, as somebody can think about it. But there are some pre-requirements which have to be passed or completed before we can mess up with our map setting. Okay, so first things first, to do offset of the current map which is installed in the ECU, we have to have one of three available tools, which actually I know, maybe there is more, but there are more, but I know three. The first one is Axon, which is the default Aprilia tool, and second one is TuneBoy, which is dedicated to single ECU, and the last one and the best one is of course XV tuner cable, software cable, okay, in which you can use to upload maps, change offset settings, CO settings, other stuff. Okay, but before we can mess up with our map, we need to understand that there are some stuff to be done before. First thing is that we need to be sure that our engine is in good condition. Okay, if there is a lack of power, it's just there is a hash ride, it has problems with starting. It's just better to solve those issues before messing around with map. Okay, to do that we need to make sure that throttle bodies are synchronized in a proper way. There are many tutorials how to do it. One on the internet is concerning SXV is unfortunately bad. It is on a well-known XV web page. If anyone wants to find it, you will find it. Okay. Generally, it says that during idle we need to set up not equal vacuums. It's not true. We have to do it in the same way every other bikes are done. So during idle, let's say from 1900s to 2100 RPM, after connecting equal length tubes using some tool, for example carb tune, we need to make sure that of course both cylinders are running, okay, because if you're trying to synchronize cylinders where one of the cylinders is not running, it won't work. So we need to make sure that both heaters are hot and both cylinders are running, and then we need to synchronize throttle bodies. We want to I can't give you a proper value because it depends on the engine condition and generally weather conditions and stuff. So we need to go to have the same equal values. Okay, if they are jumping to the same value, it's fine. Okay, the synchronization is done. The second thing is we need to set the TPS to the proper value. Okay, how to do it? We have two settings of TPS. The first one is TPS min, which is for minimum, and max, which is for maximum. And TPS minimum we need to set up during the lowest possible position of throttle bodies. What I mean by that is you need to loosen up your throttle cables, loosen up your idle screw, so that throttle body will, like a butterfly, will lie on the very end. There is a screw retainer, so it will just go to there, okay? And that is the lowest possible position in throttle bodies. Do not mess up with those edge screws, okay? Just loosen up throttle cables and this idle screw. Be careful here, because during the unscrewing idle screw you can go too far and it will just jump off the throttle body's assembly, and it is really hard to go to put it back together, okay? So generally the best way is to start XV tuner, go to tune constraints and observe when you after you lose your throttle cables. Go with idle screw, unscrew it until you will see that throttle bodies are the TPS position is not going any further. I don't really remember from my head the proper minimal TPS values. I think it was something in between 38 and 44. I would have to check the XV tuner manual. You can do it. It's accessible on the internet. And after you do that, you set you press when the TPS is not going any lower. You just press the set TPS min. Then you need to tighten up the throttle cables and try to pull as much as you can, so the TPS will show something like 215 to 218, something in this range. It has to be checked as well in XV tuner manual. I don't remember from my head, but it's important that you feel that there is a tension and it doesn't want to go any further, okay? So then after you keep your throttle, set TPS max, okay? And this is very important. Why it is important? Because in SXVs or RXVs on our bikes actually, there is no oxygen sensor like lambda, okay? So maps are, let's say, they are stable, okay? We have tables of fueling, tables of ignition, and based on RPMs and throttle position, the appropriate ignition and fueling is applied. Of course, there are some changes in those tables. Like there is an air temperature sensor. If the temperature is low, it will region up our table of fueling tables. If it's high, it will probably lean it. Okay, so there is something to work on, but generally the basic tables are based on TPS position and our current RPM of bike. Okay, so now when we have our TPS and throttle bodies correctly set, we can now check one more thing. This is very important, that our fuel pressure, the fuel which goes from tank, actually from fuel pump which is inside tank to the throttle bodies, there has to be somewhere around 3.6, 3.7 bar of pressure. Okay, it is important because it is not gravity based fueling, but it is injection. So the correct pressure in fueling system is just necessary, and it is a must. Okay, if there is not enough pressure, of course there will be injectors probably will open. Okay, there is some kind of limit. I'm not sure what is the limit. Probably it's around 2 bars. Okay, so they will open, but during this open period when they are supposed to inject fuel, the amount of fuel will be not enough. Okay, so the thing which is steering the pressure is inside fuel pump assembly. It is a fuel regulator, and it works like the pump is giving something over 3.7 bars, and any additional fuel pressure is just released back into the tank. Okay, so this is very important to have a proper fueling pressure, fuel pressure. Yes, and this is not only about idle. You need to check if during the revving engine, the best way would be to check it during ride, but I understand it's hard. Okay, and generally you will see that something is wrong. For example, if you'll have to set offset and CO to +4 +5, you can expect that something is wrong with your fuel pump. Okay, let's assume that we have a fuel pump and fuel pressure correct, throttle is synchronized, and TPS set to proper values. Now we can work with our map. First of all, we need to identify what map we need to have. And there are many maps, not many, maybe many, but you know, there is some choice which we can go with. There is a Silmotor map, there is an Akrapovic map, there is Arrow map, and etc. Alice Racing and the stuff. Okay, generally those maps they are not that different. Okay. What I checked in those maps, there is of course fueling and ignition differences. So if you can go to those tables and inspect those maps, you will see that the map which has higher ignition values, it will be like more harsh to ride and more responsible, more powerful. But not every rider likes to have such a jerky and narrow not narrow, but wild bike. You need to test map, but generally what I suggest is to use the dedicated map to the exhaust you have. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay, so what is actually the CO and offset values? What they change? The offset setting is changing the fueling on the whole range of RPMs on both tables. So if we go to the +1 offset, it means that we will richen up the fuel tables by 1%. Okay, it is actually based on probably I just suppose based on TPS position. It will get, for example, it's like if we have a TPS position 10, it will take numbers from TPS position 11. That's my guess. I think it's working like that, and that's how it reaching up both tables like that. So this is the offset value, which is reaching up or lean out map through whole range of RPMs from 0 to the 13 or 1350 500 RPMs, okay, till the rev limiter. And CO value, here there are some different information on the internet, but what I found in my case, I think that those are changed from 0 RPM to around 3000 RPM. Okay, so basically when we change CO, we are impacting the idle, mainly idle. Okay, of course there is something between 2000 and 3000 which is not idle, but generally we don't use this range of RPMs that much. I think it's just like maybe 3, maybe 5% of our whole ride we will just use this range. It's not that important to to think about it. So we can just think that CO is just for an idle. Okay, so before we go to the proper CO and offset setting, which in my way, how I do it, okay, there is one thing I need to talk about. There is something which is called warm start and cold start, okay, and as you know, the SXVs and RXVs are known about their bad cold start, or even bad starts as well, all the way, okay. Generally, if you have an engine in good condition, TPS, throttle bodies and map set correctly, warm engine will just start just like that. One push of button, half of second, and engine is running. Okay, and this is a good clue how to set your CO setting and how to make your bike start better when cold. Okay, what I found is when the bike is starting like that on a warm engine, and if engine is of course in a good condition, you have a good starter, good battery, good ground and stuff, it will start with ease during cold. Maybe not like other bikes, but it will start with some hesitation, but generally with no problem. Okay, but if you face that you have to turn your engine a few times when the engine is warm, I can guarantee you that you will have problems with cold start. Okay, so that's just one idea I had in my mind. So let's go to the proper CO and offset setting. Of course, the best way to check if the air to fuel ratio and map is set correctly is to look at your plugs. Okay, but generally it's not that easy, because you will have to use the range of RPMs which you are interested in. It is hard to keep your bike on high RPM for 5 minutes or something like that. So what I do when my engine is running, I'm trying not to shut it down, because during the process of adjusting fuel offset and fuel and CO, it probably will have some impact on starting of the engine. So I just starting with riding under the high load and with high RPMs. So the thing which is important is that adding fuel will not ruin your engine. It will not blow, it will not melt, it might just have some lower power hesitation. So what I do, I start with of course I'm checking what are the settings currently for the bike. 99%, maybe not 99, but 90% there is 0. Nobody cares about those settings. That's why those bikes just run and start poorly. So what I try to do, I'm running the bike is warm. It is important that bike has to be warm. It's not like 40 degrees on the coolant, but it has to be like 90 or even more. Okay, it has to be warm. Generally, if you put some load to the engine, it has to have a warm oil, okay, inside. Okay, so what I try to do, I ask owner of the bike to jump on it. I take fuel offset, CO settings to 0 for start, and I take the fuel offset to 5%. And I say, okay, now you try to go as usually, and after a few meters go, for example, 30 miles per hour, go on third gear and try to, you know, flat out till the rev limiter. And guy is going and he's coming back and he says, oh, it was jerky and there was no power, lack of power or something. Okay, so I know, okay, it was too rich. Okay, let's do the correction. I will go with plus 4% of offset, and he's going again and again and again. And after a few tries, he says, okay, this one was worse than the previous one. So okay, now we have, let's say it was like on +2. So we are going back to +3. And that's, in this case, we are having the this feeling that the fueling on the higher, medium and higher RPMs are fine. Okay, they are richer than they were, so it is less probability that engine will break or melt. And now we need to deal with starting. Okay, and now what is the case? After he wrote few rights, he comes back and I say, okay, turn the engine off. And he is turning engine off. I take out quickly air box and air filter, and we are trying to start the engine on when it's warm. And he's pressing start and engine just spins and there is nothing. Okay, so I'm just saying, okay, stop it, it's too much, let's inspect what's happened. And I'm asking him to open throttle bodies, and I can see throttle bodies and butterflies, and I can see that there is some smoke going from the intake area. So I understand that this is too rich to start. So what we do, I just ask him, okay, now I will go 2% of CO less, because I can see it is way too rich. But before we test it, put the full throttle for a second and spin engine a few times. It will it is an anti-fluid. It will anti-fluid the sparks for a second. It will help to start engine. Okay, so after a few seconds of spin, we give a few seconds to starter to cool down, and then we just start ignition, and he tries to start the engine again. And I can see that engine is starting, but it has some hesitation. So again, I'm telling him, okay, stop the engine, let's go -1 again. And again, he is trying to start, and engine is generally starting fine. Maybe not fine, but it's much better. So I'm going with -1 again, and then it starts like after clicking a button. And now engine runs fine, and what I ask him to go for a last ride to check if engine is responsible as it should be. And usually guys come back and say, oh, the engine is running fine, there is a lot of power, there is no hesitation, it's just smooth and stuff. So that's the way I usually set CO and offset settings. But you need to understand that each engine is different. There is some, differences in between valve clearances and stuff. So for some engine it can be like -2 +3. For another can be +1 +3. And I just basically just give advice that you need to go from the plus values and go down, not in the other direction, because you can melt you want to melt your engine during those tries, but during the longer period of riding with lean mixture on the higher RPM, you can do some damage to your bike. And this is just in compromise. Okay, if you want to have a proper best map available, you would have to have go to dyno or install oxygen sensor lambda to your exhaust, or, write down write with your laptop, write down your values, and then adjust map for a custom map. Okay, but generally from maybe like percentage 5% of bikes I had to do some compromise, because for example when the bike was running the best on +5 offset, but it was way too rich to start it. Even with -5 CO it was not able to start it, and we decided that okay, the problem is probably somewhere in your maybe in your valves clearances, but before we do that, let's take out